Hi BookTube, it's Chelsea the Reading Outlaw here to do today's Top 5 Wednesday. Top 5 Wednesday was created by Ginger Reads Laney, whose channel I will link to below. I'll also link to the Goodreads group in case any of you guys want to go check that out and check out the rest of the June topics and start doing your own Top 5 Wednesday. Just to let you guys know, I do not have physical copies of any of today's books because I read a lot of my books online, and I'm also a really big utilizer of my public library, so a lot of the books have had to go back already. These are also in no particular order because it was hard enough to pick 5 books, let alone then try to put those books in a specific order. So getting down to it, the number 5 best book that I read this year, which is, by the way, the topic of today's Top 5 Wednesday, best books you've read so far. For me, number 5 is Rat Queens, Volume 1, Sass and Sorcery, written by Curtis J. Weeb and illustrated by Rock Upchurch. I read this back in January, I believe, right before I had my baby, and I absolutely adored it. The story of a group of female criminals and outlaws who work together as a mercenary group. They are all sassy, they are all beautifully feminine, they are all hilarious, they all have their own backstories. They'll have their own physical appearance, which I think is really illustrating to look at the different art styles. My favorite rat queen is Betty, who is our alcoholic, drug-doing, spunky dwarf character, who I think is just absolutely phenomenal. I am really looking forward to picking up the second volume, which I think is either already out or will be out really soon. And I'm just looking forward to continuing along with the series. The number 4 best book that I have read so far this year was Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the Mistborn series. I really enjoyed this book because I think that the magic system in it is one of the best I've ever read in adult fantasy. I also really like Brandon Sanderson's writing style, both in his adult works and in some of his YA and middle grade fantasy. I just think that he's got a really interesting way of not only phrasing things, but also working his magic system into the reality around him that's both very powerful but also very subtle. The next favorite book that I read this year is also a graphic novel. It's Chew Volume 1, Taster's Choice, written by John Layman and illustrated by Rob Guillory. This is about the psychopathic detective Tony Chew, who can eat any substance and detect its history, and that includes human flesh. He uses this power to work for the FDA in a future society where chicken has been outlawed after a bird flu epidemic. I just absolutely love these graphic novels. I first heard about them from Lindsay Ray, as I also did Mistborn. And there's one more book on this list that I heard about her from. As you can tell, she's been a really big source of really good recommendations for me so far this year. I love this graphic novel because it's disgusting and hilarious, but also because it makes some really good commentary on legality and the legal system and food regulation and regulatory powers and kind of all of these things, while at the same time being very current and very kind of subtly funny. I think I'm really excited to see this series continue. I believe they're out to 9 trade paperbacks in the run, but it might be 10. I think my library has up through volume 8. So I'm almost done with what my library has, and then I don't know what I'm going to do in my life because I'm absolutely loving Chew. The number 2 title on my list is the last one that I heard about from Lindsay at Lindsay Ray, and it was Soulless by Gail Carriger. Soulless is the first novel in the Parasol Protectorate series about Alexia Terabati. These take place in a steampunk Victorian London where Alexia is a soulless, and vampires and werewolves are creatures who exist because of an excess of soul. And so by being soulless, Alexia can kind of counteract that excess, and she can actually take away the powers of werewolves and vampires. So like when she's actually in physical contact with a vampire, that vampire loses its fangs, or a werewolf loses its fur, or what have you. And it's just about her adventures with these supernatural creatures, kind of solving different crimes and mysteries as they pop up. I'm planning on reading the 4th one in June, as you guys will see in my TBR video that's going up on Friday. And I'm really excited to get all the way through this series and get onto some of the other work that Gail Carriger has done. She's also incredibly funny, and I'm really enjoying working my way through this series. And lastly is the only nonfiction book on this list, and it is Missoula by John Krakauer. The subtitle of this is Rape and Justice in a College Town, or Rape and the Justice System in a College Town. Yeah. And this is basically the look at the years between 2012 or 2000, yeah, 2012 and 2014 in Missoula, Montana, where there were some 250 rapes, and it uses that lens to talk in general about rape culture in America and the justice system and how the justice system handles rape claims, talks about the psychology of rape. I listened to this on audiobook. It had a fantastic narrator, but it was still a very intense book to listen to. I had to stop multiple times, but it's one of the best nonfiction books I've read in a very long time. And it's actually, I think, one of John Krakauer's best works. And I'm a pretty big fan of his. So I think that all 5 of these books, and especially that one, are definitely worth checking out. If you do, comment down below. Also, comment down below to let me know the 5 best books that you guys read this year. And as always, I will see you around the internet. Have a great Wednesday, guys. Bye.